Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into literally the most foundational skill that dictates the quality of your entire life. I am talking about communication. You know, we do it every single day, right? Yet, somehow, we still fiercely struggle with it. So, let's skip the fluff, get highly practical, and actually master the communication skills that work in the real world.
Let me ask you a question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself here. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that, like, the very next second you desperately wished you could take back? Maybe it was after a completely exhausting day, or right in the middle of a massive argument. Or hey, think about this. Have you ever said something incredibly simple, but the other person just entirely misunderstood it? And suddenly there you are having to explain your intentions over and over again? Or maybe you've watched a tiny, undeniable little issue just blow up into this massive, draining problem. Sound familiar?
If you're sitting there nodding along, let me just reassure you right off the bat. These stressful breakdowns happen to absolutely all of us. You are definitely not alone. And if we look closely, what do all of these situations actually have in common? Well, it is almost never a lack of intelligence, and it is rarely a lack of good intentions. The real culprit? A lack of clarity. Look, people aren't inherently bad. Our communication just kind of untangles into total chaos. The big takeaway here is that we really need to slow things down, step out of that chaos, and untangle the mess so we can finally find some clarity.
And that brings us to, honestly, the absolute biggest mistake most of us make on a daily basis. It is the difference between listening to reply versus listening to understand. Think about it. When someone is talking to you, what is your brain actually doing? For most of us, our minds are busy actively preparing our defensive response. We're sitting there thinking, oh, that's not right, or I need to respond to that point, or just let me explain my side. Because of that heavy cognitive load, while the other person is literally still speaking, we are mentally miles away. The dangerous result? We completely miss what they're actually saying, and worse, we miss what they are feeling.
So, how do we fix it? True effective listening requires conscious intention. It takes practice. Step 1, give full presence, not half your attention. Put the phone away, quiet down those swirling thoughts in your head, and just focus. Step 2, do not interrupt. Look, when you interrupt someone, you unintentionally signal that your thoughts matter more than theirs, and boom, that immediately triggers their ego's defense mechanisms. And then step 3, and this one is a massive game changer. Don't rush to fix it. As humans, we naturally love jumping right into solution mode, don't we? But psychologically, people usually just need to feel heard and validated. Offering a simple, man, I understand how that feels, is infinitely more powerful than immediately rushing into advice mode.
Now, the literal words we use, that's only a fraction of the battle. Tone changes absolutely everything. Take the exact same sentence, right? Delivered 3 different ways. If I say, "What are you doing?" Well, that just sounds curious. But if I raise my voice and bark, "What are you doing?" Okay, now it sounds instantly angry. Or if I narrow my eyes and drawl out, "What are you doing?" Suddenly it's accusing. The words are exactly identical, but the tone completely alters the underlying meaning, the intent, and the immediate psychological reaction of the person hearing it.
Which leads us to a deeply profound emotional truth. As Maya Angelou so famously suggested, people may forget your exact words, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Communication is intricately tied to that lasting emotion and the tone we project. When someone looks at you and says, "You're not listening to me," they usually do not mean that your ears physically failed to pick up the vocabulary they used. What they mean is you missed the emotion behind those words. Basically, they just don't feel understood.
Let's look at a highly relatable scenario here, one that causes so much unnecessary anxiety for us all. You send a text message to someone. You see that it's delivered, but nothing. There is no reply. Minutes pass, then hours pass. What happens next? Your mind immediately starts creating an entirely fictional story. You assume, oh, they're ignoring me, or they don't care, or they must be upset with me. Before you know it, your entire mood has shifted. You are annoyed, you are anxious, but then later you find out the totally mundane truth. Their phone just died, or they were driving. We call this the assumption cycle. We react to the wild story we create in our heads, not actual reality. So, instead of assuming the worst, we just need to clarify.
Okay, let's pivot for a second into the true test of our skills, difficult conversations. You know, when emotions start running high, our ability to think clearly just rapidly drops off a cliff. We get defensive, our voices get a little louder, and we end up saying harsh things. But here is the brutal reality. Once words are spoken out loud, they cannot be taken back. Period. Even with a sincere apology, the impact remains.
So when the arrows start flying, the goal is not to win the battle. The goal is to manage the moment wisely. Your absolute focus must be on staying calm, remaining self-aware, and choosing your words carefully rather than trying to, win a fight that just leaves lasting emotional damage.
Let's make this super practical. Notice the profound difference here between blaming someone and explaining yourself. When you say something like, "You always do this," or "You never listen," that is a direct attack. And human nature practically forces the other person to immediately raise their defensive walls. But shifting that to, "I feel frustrated when," completely lowers those defenses. It's an explanation, not an attack. When people understand how you feel without feeling like they are being blamed, they actually listen to you. Shifting from "you" to "I feel" removes the threat, reduces the conflict, and keeps the whole conversation focused entirely on solving the actual issue.
Now, here is perhaps the simplest, yet literally the most powerful tool in your entire arsenal: the pause. In fact, I want you to take a breath with me right now. Seriously, just breathe. Not everything requires an immediate split-second response. When something emotional happens, taking that tiny space, just one fraction of a second, between an event and your reaction gives you total control. It gives you the space to actually choose your words instead of just reacting impulsively. Mastering that one single second of pause, that can honestly prevent a lifetime of problems.
We also have to remember that our bodies are speaking even when our mouths are completely shut. Your body language can either strengthen your intended message or it can entirely destroy it. Good eye contact telegraphs genuine interest to the other person. Your posture showcases your confidence or your lack of it, while your facial expressions broadcast your true emotions. Think about it. If someone is pouring their heart out to you and you are just staring down at your phone, your body is screaming, "I am not interested." And it absolutely does not matter what polite words might be coming out of your mouth.
So, to pull this whole thing together, let's quickly review the daily habits that will immediately transition you from an unconscious, reactive communicator into a mindful, intentional one. First up, make it a point to listen more than you speak. Do not interrupt. It shows deep respect and patience. When you aren't completely sure about something, ask questions instead of assuming the absolute worst. Consciously choose to stay calm even when you fiercely disagree with someone. And above all, be clear. Do not expect the people in your life to magically read your mind. Practicing these simple daily habits will absolutely transform the way you connect with the world around you. Ultimately, your success in life isn't just based on your knowledge. It's heavily based on your relationships. And those relationships are either built or they are broken, entirely through communication. Everything improves when your communication improves. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative challenge. The very next time you open your mouth to speak, will you simply try to be right, or will you truly try to understand?